prophets in the Old Testament exhibit moral outrage, but Amos seems to have been downright hopping mad. Amos lived in the 8th century BCE, though he was from a southern Judean town called Tekoa. He preached his message of judgment and reform to the prosperous populations in northern Israel, especially in Bethel and Samaria. According to the book that bears his name, Amos did not really consider himself a prophet. Instead, he claimed to be a humble farmer who could not resist speaking the word of God. Amos proclaimed a message of total disaster for Israel shortly in advance of the Assyrian destruction of the kingdom in 722 BCE. The fulfillment of this prophecy may explain why his message was preserved and expanded in the decades and centuries to follow. Why was Amos angry? Throughout the text, Amos voices prophetic rage against the injustice of the day. The entire book denounces the excesses of the 8th century BCE Israelite life, and it reminds people of their true covenantal obligations. Those who are at ease in Zion and feel secure on Mount Samaria, who lie on beds of ivory and eat lambs from the flock, will be the first to go into exile because they have forgotten the plight of the poor and they have mistaken religious observance and piety for moral responsibility. What is the form of Amos' sayings? Amos' sayings are often in the form of judgment oracles, sometimes called woe oracles, and messenger speeches with the formula, "Thus said the Lord." Amos 5-6 includes some of the most striking and poetic imagery in all of the Old Testament. Amos 5 begins as a dirge, which is a song of death. It mourns in advance for Israel, fallen, no more to rise, and condemns the people who turn justice to wormwood. In Amos, the poetic symbolic language becomes an unrelenting expression of divine wrath. Amos converts comforting images of home and abundance into devastating instruments of judgment. As Amos 5:11 puts it, "You have built houses of hewn stone, but you shall not dwell in them. You have planted pleasant vineyards, but you shall not drink their wine." Amos 5-6 employs themes from nature to convey what the day of the Lord will be like. Though people may expect the day of the Lord to be a good day, it will instead be like a fire that consumes everything in its path, like fleeing from a lion only to confront a bear, or resting at a home but being bitten by a snake. Though other biblical texts depict the day of the Lord as a day when the Lord will destroy Israel's enemies, Amos presents it as a day of judgment against Israel. If Amos were alive today, what might he say? The key verse of the book is Amos chapter 5, verse 24. "But let justice roll down like waters, and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream." The context of this powerful statement is a prophetic denunciation of the sacrifices and meal offerings of a people who have failed to keep the covenant, which is constituted by justice and fairness. Throughout Amos 5-6, the prophet lashes out against those who have become rich at the expense of the poor, and against the public who only have hollow displays of piety. According to Amos, God says, I despise your festivals, and I take no delight in your solemn assemblies. Religious devotion is meaningless if it is accompanied by unfair taxes on the poor, backdoor bribes, and working against those in need. Because of these sentiments, this passage has become an important source for some observers of contemporary Western religious and political culture. I think Amos would disapprove of the concentration of wealth and the corresponding increase of poverty, and he would rage against the displays of self-importance and exceptionalism in some quarters of Western life. According to Amos, a nation is exceptional by the measure of how it cares for the lowest members of society, and a nation of religious hypocrisy and economic injustice is one that will perish. Martin Luther King invoked the phrase, "Let justice roll down like waters," in his famous letter from a Birmingham jail, in which he addresses the moral laxity of his fellow Southern clergymen during the civil rights movement. Is there much difference in America since the death of Martin Luther King?